Hey guys, and welcome back to ScarletSprites. So, Pinball Expo 2025. I really didn't know what to expect for this. I've been to a number of different cons, including Pinfest in Allentown this year, but each place has its own vibe and setup, and so until you go, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. And so here's a summary for the entire video. It's pretty great. I didn't stay at the Renaissance, which is the hotel that's connected to the convention center. It was a little expensive, and I saw that there was a Wyndham that looked like it was walking distance, and it was walking distance. It was also significantly cheaper, and it also had no fucking hot water the entire time I was there. None. I was also treated to a fire alarm on Friday night / Saturday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I stood outside for 30 minutes while all of that got sorted. And the next morning at checkout, I was asked, "Did you not sleep well?" No, I did not. I did not sleep well at all. I've also not had a good solid shower in several days because of your water situation, but yes, it's cheaper and you can easily walk to the convention. Anyways, my first day at the convention was Thursday. There was a small line to get in before the doors opened to the floor, and I didn't mind this at all, and in fact, it kind of hyped me up a little bit. It also allowed me some time to meet Dan, who I know from X, who has a great arcade collection, including a sweet grid setup. Dan lives relatively close to the con in the Chicago area. We'd never met in person, and so we got a brief moment to interact and talk, which was great. I also saw Nick Madsen while I was standing in line. I recognized him almost immediately from probably 50 yards out. Again, I've known Nick via a screen for several years, but never had the opportunity to talk to him in person. Nick was kind of like the ambassador of the event for me. He introduced me to so many people this weekend. He knows everyone, and he's an amazingly warm and kind person. He almost got us killed at one of the sketchiest liquor stores I've ever been to on the following evening, but aside from that, hanging out with Nick is great. Okay, so doors open, and unsurprisingly, I hit the Stern Pinball booth first. It's pretty much right in the door once you enter. I hadn't played Fall of the Empire yet, and I was easily able to grab a pro machine when I got in there. It's kind of funny. I hadn't really thought about that prior to the show, but it makes sense. People will queue up and wait for the highest tier of machine that's available. So the premiums got taken first and had some really short lines, but the pros were practically no wait at all, at least early on Thursday. Overall, the Stern area was pretty strong. I mean, this place is in their backyard, and so it's a no-brainer to set up and market your product here. I'm not even sure how many machines they had there, and I hate to guess, maybe 50, 60, somewhere in there. Fall of the Empire was the most represented of the titles, but their other games were there to be played as well, like Jaws, Stranger Things, John Wick, Godzilla, Kong, Dungeons & Dragons. Definitely heavy on the Star Wars though, which isn't a surprise at all, but yeah, all these machines were set up in groups of 4 or 5 with their backs facing each other, so you had these clusters here across the floor, and then a stage for speakers and a DJ at night. On the opposite side of the stage was a Stern merch booth, which was selling pretty much everything you can get from their online store. Also located near the Stern area was a cool vintage machine area. Some of these machines were over 100 years old, and I always love when a show is able to incorporate some history behind its subject matter, and really that's pretty much what this area did for me. I know almost next to nothing about relics like this, so getting the opportunity to go through and get a peek at what things used to be like was pretty awesome. You were allowed to play most, if not all of these, if you asked, and I thought that was really generous. It was overall a really cool setup, but I'll be honest, I spent the majority of my free time on the floor playing the Jersey Jack machines. And this isn't a knock on Stern or anyone else who was there. It was really just more about accessibility for me. Quite frankly, I just don't have places I can go locally that have Jersey Jack machines. Occasionally, one local venue will cycle between Elton John and Toy Story 4, but that's really about it. I had one opportunity to play Avatar previously, and I really liked the feel and flow of that machine, so it was great to be able to have access to it for another few days. This was also the first time I got to see and play Harry Potter. Now, I'm not really a Harry Potter fan. I've kind of seen pieces of the movies, but if you ask me anything about them, my knowledge is pretty sparse. That said, wow, the game is great. I was blown away by how magical it all looked, pun intended. It's just this great experience, and there is so much happening on the playfield. It's crazy. I love the Death Eater that just fires the ball right back at you at lightning speed, and even I recognized the rotating staircase. It was hard not to love this game, and I'll say this, the pinball machine makes me want to watch the movies, which is probably the reverse for 99% of people. My only gripe with the Jersey Jacks, and I'm probably in the minority on this, I just don't like how large the LCD is on the back glass. I think it takes away from the charm of a good piece of artwork, and beyond that, I think that the LCD is just so damn busy. There's so much text and numbers and things happening on the screen, it feels chaotic at times, and not in a good way. It adds to the confusion, in my opinion, and I felt that way about Avatar despite really liking that game, and Harry Potter kind of suffers from it too. And I get that it might be a personal preference, but it's just my take. The games themselves, though, spectacular, gorgeous, and really fun to play. All right, let's talk about what was probably the highlight of the show for most people, and I really have no objective way to define that claim, but it was clear based on the lines and simple word of mouth and conversations. Winchester Mystery House by Barrels of Fun. And I'll be honest, I knew nothing of this prior to walking onto the floor. I actually just wanted to play Dune again, and so I got in line to do that and saw the banner for Winchester. I only got to play it once because of the lines, but wow, I think I like this more than their Dune machine, and this is probably worse than a Jersey Jack situation. I never get to play Barrels of Fun machines, so I've only played Dune at shows at this point, which is obviously very minimally, and I've only played Winchester now once, but it was just that fun of an experience. A modern pinball machine that is done up like a haunted house in October, no less? Come on. I really like the color scheme on this. It's kind of like a minty teal with the tan wood colors leading the way, but then it has other reds and greens accenting it. It looks great, but has so many cool things on the playfield, like a collapsing tower and the staircase to nowhere. Even the rails have some interesting curves to them. It's just a great machine that actually felt fresh, like something new that wasn't just another movie or band. And I think that aspect alone had a lot of people excited and talking about it. I heard a number of people talking about trying to get one and how or who they were going to trade for one. The machine is phenomenal. I mean, really, and I've only played it once. I watched a lot of it at the show. I know I have zero chance of playing this locally, so I have to get myself to another convention to have a chance to play this again, but honestly, this was the highlight of the show. Anyone who attended could feel free to comment and argue, but this was the game I heard people talking about more than anything else, and I think this game snuck in and stole the show. Thinking about some other machines from the show that I got to play, Evil Dead comes to mind. There was usually a line for that, even though there were several of them available. You could tell people were really digging it, and there's a reason that it's currently cracking the top 10 on Pinside. Spooky Pinball also had Scooby-Doo there, which I have played before at an awesome little coffee house in San Antonio called What's Brewing. If you're ever in the area, definitely check it out. It's an awesome place, very chill, and they have a number of machines, including the modern Sterns, to play. I also got to play Predator a few times. You know right away that this is a wide body machine. I mean, you could just kind of feel it when you step up. The overall layout just makes the game feel massive, which I suspect is intentional and a nod to the jungle of the original film. It's cool and has some fun clips and callouts. The largest gripe I heard was in regards to how long the time was for ball saves. People seem to be on the machine a really long time, which I suspect was intentional. I mean, you want people to play the game so that you can sell some of them, right? There was also the homebrew Big Trouble in Little China machine that always had a line. I was in that line once and the machine went down and I didn't get to play it, and then a second time and I didn't make the cutoff. So sadly, I just got to look at that masterpiece, but it was a great idea for a theme, and I think it ended up winning Best Homebrew Game at the show. I also did the Stern Factory Tour add-on, which I felt was almost a must. You know, everyone talks about the size of this building, but honestly, it's about what I expected. It's not enormous and it's not tiny. I don't know, it's kind of exactly how I pictured it in my mind. I got this free hat when I was there in the lobby, which is probably the cheapest thing I'll ever get from Stern, but it was a really nice gesture. I think most of the hats said Factory Tour 2025 on them. I was the last group to go through and so got stuck with the basic trucker style, which honestly is totally fine with me. When you walk into the offices, there was a brief overview by the man himself, Gary Stern, and additional context and info provided by Seth Davis and George Gomez. You're not allowed to take pics once you actually enter the factory, so I don't really have anything to show here. The tour itself kind of guides you through the different areas of production, including the crimping of wires and harness building all the way to the end where they assemble the machine and it gets tested. The final stop was with John Borg, where he discussed and answered questions about Star Wars: Fall of the Empire. And it's kind of cool seeing these people in person, like, hey, they really exist and are working here. Overall, I thought it was cool, and I would recommend hitting it to see the facility and have that chance to ask these guys questions face to face if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not sure I need to go back again for a few years though. You know, it did take a lot of time, and I think I was gone for about 3 hours for this, and I did end up missing the lunch out with everyone that I was hanging out with there, which kind of sucked, but yeah, I'm glad I did the tour at least once. But yeah, overall the whole show really exceeded my expectations. Like any convention, the best part was probably meeting people you previously only knew from online interactions, and then ultimately just hanging out later into the night. You kind of just hang out on the floor and have drinks while playing 4-player games with everyone, and let me tell you, there is some added pressure playing against people at this convention. At least for me, I felt it, and I often choked. A lot of people at this are really great pinball players. Obviously, they have collections and they know these games inside and out. And so anytime I was playing, I was wondering, like, who owned this machine that we were on? Like, who had the upper hand in this group? And some people were just flat out savants too, you know, like the guy in front of us who casually put up 1.3 billion points on Fall of the Empire while we were waiting for the machine. It was like he was like pumping gas, like it was no big deal. It was crazy. I'll definitely try to go back to this next year. I had a hell of a good time wandering and having access to so many pinball machines, but ultimately, yes, it was the people and getting to spend time just talking about arcade games and pinball machines. And really, I should thank every single person who spotted me and talked to me on the floor in the hotel lobby. I always say it means a lot, and it does, and it's just shocking to have the number of people come up to me at this point 3 years after I kind of really slowed down on here, and at a pinball convention no less. It meant a lot, and I loved hearing personal stories and kind comments about some of the videos and hardware I've talked about over the years. Truly, thank you. I hope to see you all again sometime.